physical therapy, that can't be provided remotely. So that would be a face-to-face service, and we would make arrangements for that to happen. At the elementary level, parents will be surveyed to determine what works well for live instruction, for special education, and develop meeting times based on family schedules. Our health education curriculum will be developed in conjunction with elementary principals, and teachers will focus on the priority competencies. From March through April, it was really difficult to determine what should be the primary focus. And although we want every competency to be addressed, there are some competencies that are really critical competencies. And I know our curriculum director, Katie Hills, worked to develop those. And those will be the focus, with the hope that other competencies can also be addressed. Formative assessments will occur through quizzes, discussion, observation, and other informal means. Assessment, again, took a back seat. Instruction was really the primary focus, as it should have been during our first go-around with remote learning. But now that we've had a little bit more of experience with that, we know that it's really important for students and for families to know where they are and where they need to go in terms of curriculum content. And so we'll be able now, I think, to do some more assessments that really were not at the forefront as we were building the plane to fly in. Summative assessments that will focus on authentic tasks and higher order thinking has been a goal for the last couple of years in the district, and of course this pandemic has put a little shift in our focus, but we really do want students to be developing higher order thinking, and so that is not going to get lost in our remote instruction. That is still a focus. Teachers will be using rubrics with learning goals, and that should help students and families know exactly what the students need to do to progress from one level to another. And then grading was another issue from March through June. Again, brand new situation, and we had to make some grading adjustments at the high school, but through the committee work, the grading will be done on the current grading system. At the end of the school year, because we had an early close, which was really, in a sense, a wonderful thing, so that staff members could have 2 weeks of professional development related to virtual learning and specifically to Google Classroom. It was, I think, I got a lot of feedback from staff members who said they really learned a lot, and it was a great professional development experience for them. And the whole Google Suite is something that I think people know how to use a little more adeptly than when we entered this, and should also help with our remote learning. Should we need to go in that direction, or should that be a part of the plan that's decided upon tonight? Further professional development will occur to help integrate our education programs and tools with Google Classroom. There are a lot of other platforms that can be used, but they need to be integrated, and staff members need to be trained in how to use them. And so we would hope that as we look at the opening of school, that some of those professional development days could be used to help staff members learn how to use those programs. And then last but not least, I want to make sure that everyone understands that the mental health and social emotional recommendations discussed at the last meeting would be implemented and consistently, and there would be consistent contact with families. I think I probably neglected to say at our last meeting how much contact there has been with all of the families with regard to mental health from March through June of last year. Our school counselors were reaching out consistently, and I'm sorry if I said I think rather than I know, because I really do know that our counselors reached out very, very consistently and very widely. And I know this not from just talking with counselors, but because I also talked with families who said, yes, the counselor's been, I've heard from Matt. I've heard from Annika. So I know that these things happened. And I know that no matter what model that we implement, our counselors will be doing their jobs and will be reaching out to families, whether it's hybrid, whether it's remote, or whatever other option is decided upon. So please know that we are very concerned about all of our students' mental health, and that will be happening no matter what model is implemented. I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. So at this time, we're gonna probably open discussion for the board. There are basically two primary proposals that I see coming forward. One is a hybrid model or a blended model where some students will be back to school some days and off other days and back and forth, and there'll be some students in that same scenario that have chosen to do just online courses. Or there's a full remote learning. So we have a hybrid model or a full remote model. The process going forward, and we've spent a lot of time looking at the hybrid model itself and how it would be structured, and that's still a work in progress in a way. We know what we want to do, we just don't know exactly all the details of how it would be put together yet. We have to know how many students will choose to go online on their own. Their families will make that choice that they don't want their students back in the classroom, and we'll have the online option for them. Those students that want to come back to into the classroom, we don't have enough room in our classrooms to do 100% back in the classroom at one time to maintain the 6-foot distancing, which is really critical, I think, at this point. So we'd have students in the classrooms for a couple of days a week, another group for another couple of days a week, and they'd be maybe a midday during the week where there'd be at-home projects and learning that goes on at home. So that's one of the options that we're looking at, again, as well as the full online process. As we put these programs together, if we go with a hybrid model or a blended model, we are going to need input, obviously, from the families out there. How many families want their students at home in a remote operation? How many want their students in some kind of a blended learning in school and out of school scenario? At the same time, we have some educators who, for health reasons or other reasons, would prefer to teach online as opposed to be backing in the classroom. So we need those numbers as well to try to fit all the pieces together to make that type of process work. So it's not an easy process. There's a very difficult decision, and we know it affects families in whichever way we decide. But those are the options that we're going to be discussing tonight. And I'd open it up for the board. Charlene, would you like to start?
Can everyone hear me and understand me?
Yeah, just speak right into it and just go for it.
Okay. Well, one of the questions I had when we were talking at the last meeting about the hybrid learning model and what it would look like at the high school, we did get some, I think we had several different folks who suggested that we consider, rather than having the students move from class to class, have the students in various cohorts, and then have the teachers move from class to class. And given some of the news stories we've seen and the photographs we've seen of, large crowds of students moving through the hallways, not all of them wearing masks, not all of them socially distancing by any means. Is that something that we would consider doing? And another suggestion was that rather than the alternating weeks of 2 and 3, that there be one group meets on Monday and what was it, Monday and Tuesday, and some of them said Monday and Thursday, and then Tuesday and Friday with Wednesday for deep cleaning. And some suggested that maybe it would be better to have 2 days in a row of teaching, so you'd have one group doing Monday, Tuesdays, and another group doing Thursday, Fridays with Wednesday for deep cleaning, and I just wanted to know what other board members thought of those suggestions. Thank you.
And that is one of the adjustments that may be considered with the hybrid model that, right when it was first presented, it was Monday, Thursday, Tuesday, Friday, with the Wednesday alternating. We heard a lot of, that could be very confusing for families and remembering which days their children would be and wouldn't be in school. So the Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, Friday, with the Wednesday option in the middle for at-home learning for all students might be a better option. So again, with the hybrid model, that's something that we certainly could consider. Anyone else? Any other, input on the hybrid model that's being discussed, and then we can discuss the, full remote if somebody would like to talk about that. Okay, go ahead, Tim. Yeah, just right into it, yeah.
Okay.
I think you're on, yeah.
I'll just baby
There you
away
go.
out. Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right. After reviewing emails, phone calls, text messages, I have to say there was some 96 pages that had come through via emails. And like Kathy said, some of us were starting to stay up all night long and that sort of stuff, trying to figure what is the best plan. The bottom line is there is no good plan. And trying to, keep the virus, that's the issue here at hand, but also being mindful of the parents and students. I think we should look at our plan. I think the nuts and bolts of our plan are pretty good. The team, the task force team, did an excellent job, but I would recommend a couple adjustments, and certainly we can talk about these. But with the remote plan, I think the in-person instruction, after again looking through all the correspondence from parents and teachers, we do need to keep that consistency as far as linking the days together. So we should probably look to do Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, or whatever the combination is. And as it was brought up, not that we need to have the actual decision tonight, but mask, shield, and barriers, we need to figure that out as far as, can we just get away with having the mask and shield? Because the concern definitely for the younger students, having that barrier around them. And the piece that I feel is left out is that remote learning option. We've got the in-person instruction, and if they don't like that, they can certainly opt out and do homeschooling or whatever their choice is. But we need to come up with a remote learning option for those students that want to have a regular education, but don't feel safe enough to come in.
Tim, that is part of the plan. In the blended plan, those students that choose to do remote, their families choose to do remote, they have that option of doing that.
But-
And they, yes.
And that's with phase one, correct?
Yeah, yeah,
So
they
can either come in or,
right, if their
do
families
remote.
choose to go remote, because there's a certain number of teachers that are comfortable doing
Correct.
remote and don't want to be in the school. So those families that choose a remote option will match up teachers and grade levels and all that to do remote option for those families that don't feel comfortable coming to school. The rest of the students that want to come in will be in school on the split days and all that we
okay,
do.
so our,
So our option is a combination of remote and partial, in school, alternate days, or fully remote for everybody. So those are, there's two basic options.
I
If-
guess I'm missing it.
No, if we want to, if one option would be, we do not have any in-school instruction. Everything is
Fully
remote. Or we have the blended option where those students that want remote can have remote, and those that want to come to school on our scheduled days would be able to come to school on a scheduled day. So the blended option basically includes both remote and in-school training.
Okay, long as that remote piece is
Yep,
there.
absolutely.
Because that's definitely the concern that, as I was reading
Yep.
through all those,
Yeah,
that
no,
we
that's
have to
definitely-
have something for those students that
No,
don't
that's
wanna come
definitely
back.
part of the plan. And I'd certainly suggest remote with us as opposed to homeschooling.
Definitely.
That's my opinion, but.
So those were
Okay.
my major concerns. I know I had sent off a list of questions and that sort of stuff, but those are more, like you had said, devil's in the detail. Those
Mhm.
are little things that need to be worked out that I think can be once a plan is decided. So
Excellent. Okay, a couple of texts just came in, and Kathy, if you could respond to that.
Sure. Thank you. Oh, Jeff, I pushed the wrong thing. Okay, thank you. All right. So we have something that, okay, first, parent question, he cannot wear a mask for more than 5 minutes. What's going to happen if he does not want to wear it in class? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. That was a question that came in, must have been at a previous meeting. So the two questions tonight, Commissioner Edelblu signed a deal with Canvas so that the state K through college will be using iLearn. Are we using it also? So this is something I've been aware of for a while. We have Canvas as a pilot group in our high school. Canvas is a pretty complex learning management system, and my concern about implementing Canvas immediately is that staff members won't have the time to learn it and use it well. I think it's something that we definitely want to implement in our schools district because it does provide some incredible opportunities for remote learning. But we also don't want to rush it and don't want to be forcing our teachers to do something and get ready for something that they can't do really well. So yes, it's on our radar. It's in our high school. We're starting with a pilot program, but I don't think we're going to be ready to implement it K-12 right out of the gate. Will there be enough staffing for both models? I think that's an excellent question, and that's been one of the things that has been, talking about staying awake at night. That's been one of the things that's been on my mind. And we won't really know until we do a survey of parents to know how many parents want their students in school and how many parents want their students remote. And now that whatever the plan is, once we finish tonight, I think that will give school staff members a chance to say, all right, what is going to be what I need to go back to school, or do I need to be remote? And once we have some of each, then we'll be able to establish, do we have enough for a total K-12 remote learning cohort? If we don't, then there is the Virtual Learning Academy. I have to tell you that they're experiencing the same thing that every other educational entity in the state is experiencing. they are overwhelmed. And they're a very credible organization. They've been in existence probably for 15 years or more. They do good work. My own daughter took a course from Virtual Learning Academy. It was challenging, but they were flexible, and it was a good class. Would I rather have people with us so that our kids can get our curriculum and our standards? Absolutely. So if there's any way that we can do it within the district and be consistent with our own curriculum, we'll certainly try to do that. But VLAX is another possible option.
Thank you. One of the other concerns that has come up over the last several weeks is the influx, obviously, of our summer visitors, which we certainly appreciate them being here. They drive our economy and make us a very good, nice place to come. And we also have Motorcycle Week coming up at the end of this month. It ends on September 30th. And there's obviously a concern, August 30th, I'm sorry, August 30th. And that's obviously a concern because there could be an influx this year. They estimate of probably about 50,000 motorcyclists to the Lakes region. In looking at all of that and putting these plans together, we don't want to drive that completely, toward whatever decision we make. What we have discussed and what I think makes a lot of sense is moving the opening day of school from September 9th to September 14th. That gives us a full 2-week kind of quarantine period when the motorcycle people will be gone. Most of our summer visitors have gone back to their homes to start their, again, businesses or their own students back in school. And that would give us a few extra days to really make sure the plans that we do put together, whether it be full remote or the blended option, are done the best we can possibly put them together. So that's one of the options that we're considering. Yes, Charlene.
One question I have, thinking about summer vacations, and many of our families take vacations all the way up until Labor Day. And you had mentioned when we know about Motorcycle Week. So if I can go to Motorcycle Week first, historically, many of our riders have traveled from Sturgis, South Dakota, from that big motorcycle rally. Then they come to, the Lakes Region Motorcycle Week in New Hampshire. And I don't know if anyone else has been, seen photographs posted about one of the big motor car rallies that took place in Sturgis. It was a huge crowd. There were no masks required. No one was wearing masks. Again, no one was social distancing. I'm wondering if, given the fact that particular group will also be, part of our Motorcycle Week, and the fact that we'll have families traveling. Some of them, we know have traveled to, or perhaps are traveling to hot spots. If it would make more sense to at least postpone any kind of in-person until a full 2 weeks after Labor Day for start of school. I'm just throwing that out there because, that might give, these various travelers a chance for them to perhaps all be negative or not exhibit any signs of COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a thought.
We can certainly consider that. I think that starting day, I think, is right now going to be one of those things we're going to have to talk about. I do think normally the teachers are back, doing their prep work prior to Labor Day. So if they've been on vacation, they're usually back the week before, kind of preparing, their opening business and all to get back into school. So most of them should be back from the teacher standpoint, and all should be back here the week before anyway. However, the actual starting date can be a discussion that we can have. I have no problem with that. I think we really need to decide what the plan is going to be. And then once we decide what the plan is going to be, we can put that in action and talk about exactly what the opening day should be. But that, very good point. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Hang on, Charlene. Jim, I'm sorry. Jim Pittman.
Yeah. How does this work? Is that on?
Yeah,
Oh,
you're on.
Excellent. All right, well, just follow up with what Charlene was referring to in terms of Bike Week and the flow down from the big event out in South Dakota. I really do think this is a significant risk. You know, it's really hard for us to quantify it. I mean, I'm not an epidemiologist, and so I'm really just depending on what I've seen in other parts of the country. So I would be a huge advocate in factoring that into how we go forward. I'm not sure we need to delay opening entirely if we were able to start as a totally remote operation. That would remove the physical presence element of children and teachers in the school. And maybe we might even want to consider having that as our model for the first marking period, perhaps even. And I think the additional benefit of that would give us a little more time to prepare all the little details that are going to go into the hybrid model. Hopefully, we're going to, if we do see an event where there's a lot of community spread as a result of these different events, that will not last, and we will be able to move on to the hybrid model. So I think either, as has been mentioned, that additional delay in opening or opening only as a remote model, I think either one could be considered.
Yeah. Thank you, Jim. Krista.
Am I on?
Try. Yeah, there you go. You're on.
Okay, one of the things that was brought up by the teachers was wondering if we could have the elementary students go back to school. And that way, that would relieve some of the burden on the parents at home and leaving younger kids at home. And those are the kids that have the least attention span and could use the most help from the teachers. And then look at some place like 6th, 7th grade on up beyond remote. And they're the ones that would be more likely to be carrying or spreading the virus if we had that. And it may also give a little bit of relief to the transportation department.
Okay. Julianne. He'll turn you on, I think. Yep, you're on now.
About that. I think it's important to get our kids back to school as soon as possible. I have the utmost confidence that our teachers, our staff, our custodials can protect our children. I think the parents and the students will be safe. I think we have the ability to do this. I mean, it's a pandemic. All of us are going shopping every day. We're going to work every day, some of us, and there's means and measures to protect ourselves. And I think we need to move forward and, you know, conquer the pandemic, not just, you know, hide. And I think the students want to go back too.
Thank you, Julianne. Dana.
Dana Streeter, representative of Ossipee. And what if? Well, there's a lot of what ifs, and the first thing I want to do is thank all the people who emailed the district, and we've been trying to read all of them. And some of you have really come out with every single detail. You know, it's unbelievable, the things that we have to think about before opening. But I'll get right to it. I think we should start with the blended learning. And 38.5% of the teachers union believe that we should have a blend. And then fully remote was 25.7%. And then, of course, there's some staff members who are opting an option of just doing remote. And maybe that can be worked out with the teachers' union and the superintendent and the board through department heads and rescheduling the different teachers that we have teaching the same subjects. Maybe we can be pretty flexible in that. There's no one perfect plan. But where there's so many adults and children and teachers that want children back in school, I believe the blended is the most popular. Now, if we somehow could satisfy even half of the people to be ready to open on the 9th, then I'd like to do that. People are asking to postpone, delay, and what ifs, because of what if. What if there's an outbreak? Well, obviously, if there's an outbreak, then we make that decision, we'll put the brakes on. But right now, if I like the schedule where everybody on Monday has a remote, you can schedule meetings with teachers, teachers can get caught up, they can use it also for prep time, and then half of the student body, the A team, will go on Tuesday and Wednesday. The B team will go to school on Thursday and Friday. And of course, when they're not in school, they're on remote learning. We've heard multiple stories where students want to they want back in school. They want back in school because of social reasons. Well, that's going to be one of the hardest things that we are going to have to control inside the school building. They want to hug each other, touch each other. And it's going to be difficult to keep the mask on. When people say follow the science, well, in some way the science has hurt what we're going to try to do with teenagers and younger people, and that's to keep the social distance. They're led to believe that the virus doesn't affect them like me, the old guy, and we're not sure about that. We're not sure. This virus has no ending to the damage that it does to human beings. And there are some studies in Europe that are finding that, no, youngsters are having brain problems, seizures. I really believe that we will not make it. We might make it until Thanksgiving vacation. And then I believe whether it's COVID-19 or just fear is going to cause us to come back and rethink everything again. So anyways, I'm a pessimistic person. You can probably tell my glass is half full, not half empty. So anyways, that's my assessment, and thank you very much for listening to me.
Great. Thank you, Dana. Before we get to Charlene again, I have a couple of text messages, and I'm not sure if some of them require an answer, some don't, but it says, and again, this is, I think, just a rhetorical question maybe. If the teachers don't feel safe going to school, does that mean they aren't shopping, eating, or going out in the public? I don't know what that really means. There's really no answer for that, but it came in, so I thought I'd just read that. The next thing is, if the teachers don't want to go back, but when the survey goes out for parents and want to have their children go back, what then? Do the teachers outvote the parents? And I think, again, in listening to the presentation, that's not the case. There are some teachers that will not want to go back in the classroom for safety reasons and all of that. There are parents that will not want their children back in school and would rather have a remote learning process. So we would be matching up the teachers and the students in a remote situation, and those teachers that are in the classroom, we would match up with the students that are in the classroom. So unless 100% of the teachers say they're not going back, that would be an issue, but I know that that's not the case. So that's really not an issue at all. The teachers do not outvote parents. They're being very flexible on what they want to do and what they're being asked to do. And certainly there are some teachers that don't feel comfortable, just like some parents don't feel comfortable having their children come back. But that's a matching process that we have to go through if we do this blended plan. So again, that's not accurate. This next one, do you know, when do you anticipate knowing what full remote will look like? My 10th grader, I'm not going to go into the rest of it. The superintendent just explained some of the process for remote learning. The exact details of everything on the remote will be processed as we move forward, regardless if it's full remote or if it's remote for those students that just don't want to come back in. The entire remote process will be put together, but the guidelines were spelled out before in the presentation. So again, I'm not sure, maybe they weren't online at that point, but anyway, I think that's certainly in the works. Are teachers going to be required to be tested before starting school?
There's no plan to require that teachers are tested before they start school. We're assuming that teachers who travel out of state will certainly let us know that. And in that case, there would be a 14-day quarantine or a test.
And the last question from the same person, I think it's sort of repeating the one before. What is the remote plan for high school, considering all of the unique considerations? Again, if whatever remote possible, whether it's full remote or just remote for those students that want to be remote, all of the details are in the process of being put together, regardless of which direction we go. So again, all of that is in the works, and you know, so I think we're on track with that. I'm just not sure whether this person was either watching or not, but that's what I just got in. Charlene, did you have something else you wanted to bring up?
I just had a question, well, a couple of questions. You know, we're all very mindful of the great economic pain our entire country is suffering because of this. And I know that many of our families, if not the majority of our families, have both parents working outside of the home. So my question is, I think Monday night, as I recall, there were a couple of folks, maybe more, who mentioned some kinds of support for families who are, you know, having a difficult time. One of the questions, I guess my first question is, if we decide to go with the remote model, at least for the first marking period, to get past some of these super spreader events, I'm wondering, since there may be other aspects of what we usually spend money on in the district that we won't be needing to spend money on, and if it isn't then consumed by PPE and Chromebooks and other things, is there a way that the district could repurpose some of those funds and create some kind of a Governor Wentworth Regional School District community-wide support system for these families, be it you know, maybe finding other methods of safe daycare, or I know with their school-age kids, they're going to want their kids to be taught, but I know that with remote learning and the hardship it creates for some parents who are then not able to go outside to do their you know, to their jobs because they're needing to, you know, teach their children? Is there some, or supervise their remote learning? Is that something that that we could consider doing as a school district?
Yeah, but, you know, it's really a hard question because, you know, even if there were funds available, I don't know if there are daycares available to take care of the number of students, you know, the number of children that might be involved. The daycare, you know, situation is very, very difficult right now. So, you know, there may or may not be something that we could do, but that's really an open-ended question now until we really did some research on what may even be out there at this point in time to even help. You know, you can't throw money at something if there's no place to throw it. So that's really the difficult thing. You know, supporting families is a great option to do if we can do it. But again, I think if you look at where these daycare centers are, that most of them are either full or not operating, or they've got certain limitations and all on what they can do. So it sounds like a great idea, but I don't know if it's something that would be practical for us to do. But I'm sorry. Yes, Jim.
Hey, hello. Okay. Just a point of order, Jack. You've been taking questions and answering them from people who've been emailing them in. I'm just wondering if, as a courtesy to our folks that are here with us this evening, do we want to give them the same opportunity in case they've had some questions come up as we're discussing here, or do we want to really limit that?
We could certainly do that. Obviously, there's not a lot of people here, but I think as we're having our discussions, again, I don't want to drag this out too long, obviously, but if there are some other people out there that would like, after listening to the comments around the board, if there's some comments that you'd like to make, certainly step up to the microphone and let us hear what you have to say. Thank you, Jim. No, I think that's perfectly appropriate.
Jack?
Yes, Dr. Jim.
I'd like to make 2 points. The first is the 14th was not chosen as random. It's the 10 to 14-day window that usually follows an outbreak. Now, we don't know that there's going to be an outbreak on during Laconia, but it's probably likely. The other thing I'd like to say is I'm not sure exactly how we change this according to the grading, because we have trimesters and quarters. Which one are you going to use? The trimester? That's the lower grades. Quarters or upper grades? So I think we ought to pick a target date rather than someplace in the middle. Maybe perhaps at staff evaluation point when they do the student evaluations. If that's the case, then have it changed then. But to do it short of that, it's hard to tell which one you're going to do, because trimesters and quarters don't match up.
Thank you, Jim. Did you want to?
So Jim, just to clarify, you're talking about quarters and evaluation? Yes, and with the
The high schools are on quarters, correct?
The high school is on quarters, yes.
And the elementary grades are on trimesters,
Yes,
which means that one's a little bit longer than the other.
right. Yep.
So which grading period are you going to use? The high schools or the elementary grades?
Well, it will be different for each. The high school will use their traditional marking period, and as will the middle school, as will K through 6.
Right, but what I'm saying is if you're going to change programming, are you going to do it on which schedule? You can't use 2 different schedules. You can't use one for the elementary school, one for the high school.
We probably can. I mean, when you talk about the hybrid model or the remote model, we can probably run the assessment schedule just the way we've run it in the past.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I have another, an opinion from somebody that just came in on a text. Just wanted to make a few points. Children and teenagers want many things that are not good for them. It is up to adults to make the best healthy decisions. Unfortunately, a good example of this is the epidemic of vaping. This is not healthy for our children, yet they want to do it anyway. it has become almost impossible for the teachers, staff, transportation to stop this epidemic. These children vape on buses, in classes, in bathrooms, in the cars, in parking lots. Unfortunately, I do not think there will be any greater success in social distancing. It will not be controlled. Please keep it remote for at least the first marking period. Let's not rush, see what other New Hampshire school districts do with numbers. So that's one opinion that just came in. There's another one, I think, that maybe just came in, I don't know. Will students be bringing Chromebooks to and from school every day? So if, in other words, if they have Chromebooks, are they taking them home with them? If they're in school 2 days, are they take them home with them and then bring them back the next time they're in school?
Each student will be issued a Chromebook, and if they have projects, assignments that need to be done on a Chromebook, they certainly will be able to take them home. I don't know that they'll be required to take them home. I think it depends on what's happening in the individual classroom.
Okay, so the answer is, possibly they would be bringing them back and forth each day.
They'll definitely be available to do that.
Thank you. Okay, yes, Tim.
So going through all this stuff, certainly
Wait.
it's quite mind-blowing. And I very well could have missed something along the way, but reviewing our plan, and also the cheat sheets that I had talked about, dated July 30th, it doesn't mention that on the hybrid piece, the in-person and remote. But I talked briefly with Wendy, and I'm just wondering if, because I know the teachers had given a plan, is that what you're referencing? Because I'm just trying to get that together.
I guess I was always under the impression that the hybrid plan included both options for the parents.
Yeah, as far as what it says here, and Kathy, you can speak on it, but basically it's the Monday, the 2 days with the swing day on Wednesday, but there would be no virtual learning via the teacher on the days that they're home.
Tim, I think I understand what what you're referencing. There was a letter that went out, which you all received, and that specified the possibility of remote instruction along with the hybrid model. So you won't necessarily see it in the plan, but you would see it in that letter.
Okay, as long as it's there.
It's there.
Okay.
Okay, and one more quick text, and I think this followed up on the Chromebook question. The Chromebooks should be brought back and forth every day just in case there is a COVID shutdown. They will need them if they have to go suddenly to remote. And that's a very good point. Obviously, whatever plan we put into place, if we do put a hybrid plan in place today, tomorrow, the day after school opens, a week or month after school opens, if something happens, we're going to be ready on the turn of a dime to go fully remote if necessary. We're not going to keep our children at risk if something happens. So our best case is that we move forward with partial opening. The blended plan, if that's what we vote on, and hope for the best. If something does happen, we are going to be ready to react immediately to change to a full remote system, and that's always been out there. We're not going to put our students and teachers and staff at risk. So that's kind of where we are with that, and this kind of just it kind of enforced that, where if the children have their Chromebooks and they're taking them back and forth, it might be a very good option that it's required that they take them back and forth, because if the day they go home something happens and the next day they're fully remote, they'll have everything that they need to continue. So again, another question. And anyone else have a comment? Charlene, and I've got another text after that.
many questions. Another question. In, with the high school students and the middle school students, well, any student actually, the K through 12, for the students who have always participated in band and chorus, it's my understanding that when they are in attendance in person, I think it's my understanding that band and chorus will not be able to take place because of the danger from the musical instruments or droplets when students are singing. But with the remote learning, are they not able to still continue to, you know, have like a large group of band students who playing instruments at the same time under the direction of Mr. Burns, and the same with chorus? So, I mean, I know it's one small, you know, not necessarily the whole student body, but it is one group in which it seems to be a case where they'll be negatively impacted by the in-person model if indeed they're not going to be able to even socially distance play their instruments, or if they're socially distanced be able to, you know, sing together. Whereas now, as part of the remote learning, it's my understanding they're able to do that. So, you know, my question is there a way, if we do vote, if the majority votes to go to partial in-person learning, is there a way to allow those students to still have that experience in a meaningful way?
Thank you, Charlene. Go ahead.
I really wish there were a music teacher here to answer this question, but I'll tell you what I know about the discussions that have been had about this. Absolutely, the droplets are a problem with chorus and with any of the wind instruments, which is basically our band. So our music folks are going to need to retool the curriculum. The off days, certainly students can practice at home. Charlene, I don't really know if the remote is an advantage necessarily. I think in either situation, the curriculum needs to be revised, and we would hope that students would be able to practice, whether remotely or whether on those off days in the hybrid model.
Okay, another text message. This is from a New Durham parent and staff member. New Durham has only 2 daycares. One is closing, and the other has been closed since March. What do families do if we are hybrid? Unsure if the second will be opening back up. So I don't have an answer for her. Obviously, that's a concern. We're concerned about all these families that have young children to take care of. And it's just a very difficult situation. But, we'll, again, if we can work out some sort of help system that Charlene suggested before, if there's a possibility for that, we could certainly try to do that. But, we certainly feel for these parents. This is not an easy decision for anybody. I think there's a gentleman here that would like to speak. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Hi, it's Scott Giesler, Arts Center coordinator. You were asking for Mr. Burns before. I can tell you that in the state guidelines for music education, the issue is that it's an increased distance that they need for singing and for wind instruments. So instead of 6 feet, they're looking for 8 to 10 feet. Obviously, bands are large, choruses are large, but just to kind of give you that information so you have it, because I know that was a question that was just asked up there. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. 2 other quick texts. I think there's another one back here. Kids are very hard on their Chromebooks. Can the school provide covers? So that's certainly a possibility. I think everybody that uses a Chromebook or any kind of a tablet or anything like that is hard on them anyway. So if we can provide covers to help the situation, that would be good. The second is, what are the repercussions, and this is a good one to try to get some handle on. What are the repercussions for students who do not wear their masks in school? And, you know, we're going to be working on a mask protocol and all of that. I don't have a really good answer for that right this second, but I think that's going to be worked out as far as, you know, what the requirements are going to be and what the repercussions will be if they don't. And one more question from the same person. If a teacher has a child who needs to be home for remote learning on off days, can teachers be home for those off days and in school on the on days? So,
One of those details to be determined. But actually, when I think about that, if I give myself a second, the off days will have another class of students, so that actually wouldn't work, because the teachers would actually be teaching all 4 or 5 days, depending on the model that's decided, and so they really wouldn't be able to be remote.
thank you. Another one here, and I think this is good. It says, hi, Mr. Whitmer. By taking emails, I'm wondering if you decided to extend the public input for this meeting. And, you know, we're here to listen to the public. This is our time to discuss and you know, our feelings about the plans. But it's super important for us to listen to the public and understand, you know, we're here to serve the public and to serve the children of this district. And yes, I guess if that means we're extending public input, the answer is yes to that. Let's see.
What is the threshold for the number of students that we could have in the building? Say we have several students decide to do remote, or students, parents decide to do homeschool, but what would that number look like that we potentially could have the students come all 5 days?
It's about 11 to 12 students per classroom. That's an approximation because our classrooms are different sizes, but
20.
that'll give you an idea at least.
So here's another question. Is it possible for kids who are remote learning or teachers who are remote teaching do it from the classroom? So a child at home tunes into the classroom that is in progress, or teachers teaching remotely is on a screen in the classroom. Not sure exactly what they mean by that, but I guess maybe having the teacher physically in the classroom, maybe live streaming the, I guess maybe that's what it means, maybe live streaming the actual classroom activities, so they feel as though they're in the classroom. I think that's probably what they mean by that question. And that's you know, certainly something to be determined. If again, if we're talking about remote learning, most likely the teacher that's doing that teaching doesn't want to be in the classroom. That's why they've chosen to do remote teaching. So that probably wouldn't be necessarily an option. But again, something to look at as we go forward. There's still more coming in all the time. So anyone else has some comments? Yes, Mr. Pittman.
I'm waiting for it. There we go. Okay. Yeah, it's great that we have all these people coming in and asking questions and so on, and we certainly want to have that opportunity. But this is my first year on the board, so I'm going to ask for some help. I'm just wondering if we're moving in a direction of something that we're going to vote on, and if you can define that. Now, I know we have the plan, but I also believe there were several possibilities of how that plan would play out. And, you know, for myself as a board member, I think it would help focus my questions and observations if I could kind of hear an end point of where we're going with this.
I think we could start off with a motion on the plan as it exists now, and then various people could weigh in as far as comments on what the plan is, alterations, whatever. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think we can do that. I do want to, and I agree with you. Let me do a couple more text messages, and then we'll move on from there. As a mother of three, while I would rather see students back at school fully, I believe that the task force did an amazing job with the hybrid model. It hits the vast majority of family wants and needs on both sides. I do not agree with remote, but I respect families' decisions for their children. Please think of the majority of the population. The next one, New Hampshire DHHS and Education Reopening Task Force is recommending 3 to 6 feet social distancing. World Health Organization recommends 3 feet. CDC recommends 6 feet distancing when feasible. If these are recommendations, could full in-person learning occur with 3-foot social distancing as recommended by the New Hampshire Department of Education? And why are we not using this recommendation from the Department of Ed? My answer to that is that we feel that the 6 feet social distancing is the proper guideline, and we're going with the 6-foot guideline. I don't agree with the 3-foot guideline. Other people might have some difference of opinions, but this is again why this decision becomes very difficult. These are two or three health organizations out there that are giving different recommendations. So we have to choose which we feel is best for our students and our staff. We've chosen that 6 foot is appropriate, and that's what we're going for. And one more. Will the preschool programs run if you do not choose remote? Preschool programs.
If you don't choose remote.
Right, in other words, if we choose the online, the hybrid model.
The special education portion of the preschool will be available. The other portion, the regular ed, which is primarily community members, will not be available because we need to do the social distancing and keep those spaces open for special education students.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so at this point, I think we've certainly heard a lot. Do we have a motion that anybody would like to make to put on the floor, and then we can open that up for discussion? Well,
Make a
yes.
motion to go with the hybrid model.
Okay, Julianne says that she would make a motion to go with the hybrid model. Is there a second for that?
Second?
Okay, we'll give the second to Wendy. I gotta write this down. Hang on a second. Moved and seconded by Wendy. Okay, so before we vote, obviously, the motion on the floor is to go with the hybrid model. Obviously, it will may be adjusted as we move forward as far as Monday, Thursday, Tuesday, Friday, or Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, whatever the days are. But the scenario is the majority of the students would come back on the 2-day on, 2-day off process with the alternate days as an at-home learning day or project day. And those families that choose to have their students learn remotely will have that option to learn remotely as well. And if that's what we ultimately decide, then we'll put all the numbers together for teachers, students again, to make all those things mesh together. So, comments? Yes, Wendy.
I just want to first thank this board, the administration, the teachers, everyone. I am so proud that we're able to talk openly, freely, respect to people's difference of opinions. I think in this time, people aren't always able to do that and accept whether, people have a different opinion, but accept it and know that we all come from a different mindset, but the end goal is the kids. And I can say the respect, this love and support from the community, again, this board, I'm just so proud to stay here, whatever those decisions are, because I know that we still respect each other and we can, be proud of all the communities that the Governor Wentworth serves. I just, again, from my personal view, I look at this, I just want to make sure as a district, and I think we're doing that here, but keep that momentum going, that we look at facts, science, and don't overbear too many guidelines. Just look at the, don't make it so scary for kids that, I understand people talk about the layers, and I support that, but don't make it so tight that we're suffocating. Just look at the guidelines, follow the guidelines, don't make up guidelines that don't exist. Just be mindful of the guidelines and common sense, and I think that we're doing that here today. For me, I look at this as a nationwide issue. There's generations that are being impacted, and we only get one shot to educate our children, and there is no going back. I think that we've done a great job trying to manage the mental health of the kids, the teachers, but I think as a nation we are tired, we're angry, we're sad, we miss our normalcy. We don't know what that will ever be, if ever possible, and it saddens me greatly. I just am so proud of, again, the work that everyone has done. I feel that we do need to get back to living. I do believe it is in the best interest of our children to get them back, to get the teachers here, so they can see their smiles, they can read a book, they can see their friends, and it may look differently, but that's okay. They at least have that, and I think that we need to provide that for our kids. And I just want to say I support the hybrid model, and I am, again, if we have to go remote, that is what we will need to do, but I support going forward with the hybrid model. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Another quick question, and this is another thing that's going to be discussed on exactly how it's going to work. What about a decision on screening kids before school? I think relying on parents is the wrong thing to do. We certainly understand that. That's part of the details that will be worked out if we go with this model. How that's done, what parents may want to do it, may not want to do it, whether we do it in school and have a bank of people, checking kids when they come in. We don't know yet, but that will all be decided as we put we start fine-tuning the whole process. It is a fine-tuning, we're going to have to fine-tune this, no question. What will happen in art and classroom projects and students can't share supplies? Good, Kathy.
This has been a topic among administrators, and so students will have their own supplies, so we'll do little packets of supplies for each individual student.
Yeah. So everyone will have their own supplies. Okay, more comments? Yes, Mr. Fenton? Yep.
Sorry, I couldn't understand what you said. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor for the hybrid model. A couple of questions that I have here is that if worst-case scenario comes to pass as we approach the opening day of school and we have a major spike in community infections, who will be empowered to make the decision to go remote? Will our superintendent be empowered to make that decision, or will it require the board to reconvene?
The board will need to make that decision about whether the board wants to convene or wants to confer that power to the superintendent.
Okay. And then my second comment, earlier when we started this discussion, we had a little bit of thought about delaying school instead of going back to the 9th, that we would wait an additional week. Should we have some discussion as how that may affect this?
Sure. I think if we're going to vote, if the hybrid model is approved, then I think we can certainly discuss at that point the start date for that. I don't think we need to necessarily have the start date decided ahead of time. You know, unless you'd like to make an amendment to the motion to move the start date to a later date. You know, we can certainly vote on an amendment to do that, or we can strictly vote on you know, a start date after we approve a plan.
If you're open to taking it up afterwards, I'm fine with waiting.
Yeah, well, absolutely. You know, the floor is going to be open for any other amendments that, or any other motions that anybody on the board would like to make concerning this.
Thank you.
Charlene?
Thank you, Jack. At this point in time, given everything, taking everything into consideration and understanding that the decision to send one's child back to school during a pandemic is a deeply personal decision. As the motion stands, I cannot vote to send our school community back for in-person learning when I wouldn't do it myself if I still had school-aged children. And I, at this point in time, would vote against this motion, and I would be interested in some board discussion about what an appropriate date would be to continue remote learning until a date certain, while we wait and see what might be happening regarding some of the upcoming super spreader events, as well as the fact that right now, back in March when we decided to close our schools, New Hampshire had very few cases, and to me it seems illogical to now go back to any kind of in-person learning when cases are rising in our state, and we also have an incredibly devastating number of states that are experiencing horrific spikes. So if I could have some guidance on what might be a reasonable or logical date, I would like to make an amendment to continue with remote learning to a date certain, and the date that comes to my mind for no particular reason is October 15th, and that would be my motion as long as that date, seems reasonable, given, I think it's very valid that there was, consideration about a particular marking period ending, but then we have the situation of, the high school is on quarters, and I believe it was K through 6 is trimester.
Yeah.
So I'm asking for help in formulating my amendment, because I would like to
Okay.
choose a date that might somehow accommodate those two different marking periods.
Okay, well, first of all, we can't have a motion or amendment to go to online learning or in a date for online learning, because the motion on the floor right now is to vote on the hybrid model. So we need to vote on the hybrid model first. If that's defeated, then we can certainly vote on a motion to entertain remote learning for the first semester, first marking period, whatever it is, but we can't entertain that motion until the motion on the floor is handled.
I was off for 3 years, and I forgot my Robert's Rules of Orders.
No.
Sorry.
And I'm not really great at them, but I know you have to handle one motion at a time, so anyway. Additional discussions on the motion on the floor to approve the hybrid model with, as presented, with obviously modifications as is fine-tuned. Yes, Jim?
I understand the procedural fine points here. I'm concerned that if we just go and vote on the hybrid model, it basically ends discussion. I'm in support of Charlene's position that we should have a delay in the full implementation of hybrid model for a period of time. And I was under the impression you had given me the opportunity to put forth an amendment for that, a delay in the start of the school date to perhaps the following week, the 14th. So I'm a little confused as to why Charlene cannot propose an amendment.
Well, Charlene's isn't an amendment, it's another motion. Well, if you're not really making an amendment to the current plan, the motion on the floor is to institute the hybrid plan. So you can't make a motion to change the hybrid plan that's being proposed.
No, I was trying to amend, I was trying to sort of follow up on what what Jim Pittman had wanted to do, which was to have the opportunity to make an amendment to postpone the implementation. So it's not a separate.
You can certainly do that to postpone the beginning of the hybrid plan if that's what is voted on. The hybrid plan would still go into effect whenever date you put on for your amendment. It has nothing to do with remote learning at that point. If after that, if a date is approved for delay, if you wanted to make a separate motion to institute hybrid learning only for September 14th to a day as a separate amendment or a separate motion, you could do that. But just remember, if that's defeated, then whatever date you put on to start the hybrid plan is then the date that the hybrid plan starts. So if, say you chose a date of October 15th for the hybrid plan, and that was approved, and the hybrid plan was then approved, it could not start until October 15th. If your motion to have remote learning from September 14th, say, to October 15th is defeated, then there's no school at all until October 15th.
Okay, let me see if I'm understanding this correctly. The motion on the floor for the hybrid includes, we start school with students being able to come to school for in-person learning with all the safety protocols which we will require to be followed from the start, what's currently the start of school, which is September the 9th, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And also, as part of that hybrid model, there is a component of remote learning for those parents and teachers who choose to follow that path, correct?
Correct.
So, I'm not sure how I would try to either amend that motion. Are you saying I cannot amend that motion to
You can't amend the motion on the floor to change the content of the motion. The content of the motion is to approve the hybrid plan and offer remote learning for those students that want remote learning. That's the content and the core of the motion. So you can't change what's happening within that motion.
Okay, so in other words, if I don't want to have any in-person learning, say until October the 15th, I should just vote against the motion, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Point of order.
Dana?
Not necessarily. We have one motion we need to vote on. Then you can bring up any motion you'd like that will affect the start of school. But you don't have to vote no on
No, Dana, I think the question really is, you can certainly vote against the motion that's on the floor.
Oh, definitely.
If the motion is approved, then if somebody wants to make a motion to change the start date for the school to whatever date it is, September 14th, October 15th, whatever it is, to institute the motion that was approved, then that's fine.
Yeah.
If somebody then wants to make a motion to do just remote learning from, say September to October, and that is approved, then we go remote September to October. Or if that's not approved, then we don't start school until October 15th. Or if that happens to be the date, that's really the scenario that has to play out.
I just don't understand the confusion.
So basically what's on the floor now, we need to take a vote, plus or minus, and we can still have discussion. I'm not shutting off discussion. We still have to take a vote on the motion that's on the floor. The motion that's on the floor is to approve the hybrid model as presented with the option for remote learning for those families that want to have their children in remote learning. And right now, that is scheduled to start on September 9th. That's the motion that's on the floor right now. And that's so we can finish discussing that, and then we have to vote on it.
Jack,
Yes?
the motion on the floor is for what the entire year would be. You could modify the beginning and the end any way you want.
I'm sorry,
After
I'm not,
The motion on the floor is for programming for the entire year, the academic year 2021.
well, not necessarily, Jim.
Well, no,
The-
but
Yes,
I mean-
it is for the school year 2021.
Right. But what I mean-
With the understanding that if we need to change that
Oh, yeah. No,
at
no, no.
any
but-
time, we have the ability to change that with a board vote.
Oh, no, but what I
You know,
know-
to or full remote, if we have to.
what I know-
Or or if we get the all clear, which, I mean, I think everybody would love to hear that word. It's all clear, you can do whatever you want. If we get the all clear by January 1st, and we sat here as a board and say, okay, 100% of the students can go back to school, that would be great. And then we can make that happen. But right now, this plan is for the current school year coming up,
Right,
to be modified if the situation changes.
right. And that's the thing, so you could modify it even now, the very beginning or the end of it, depending on
Yeah.
what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
And that's basically what Charlene's proposing, and that's fine. What we're gonna do is we're gonna vote for motion to put a plan in effect that there's a hybrid model for the entire school year unless otherwise modified. So you can modify the beginning of it. If you don't want the beginning of it to be on October 15th, you can modify it to, or you want it on October 15th, you modify the plan by putting in a motion that says, I would like remote learning leading up to that point from the beginning of September to October 15th. Then the plan can go into effect. That's the kind of motion you're talking about, and it's perfectly fine.
Okay, so, let's kind of wrap up the question on the motion that's on the floor. If there's any other pertinent discussion on the motion that's on the floor, to approve the hybrid plan as presented, with the option for those families to have remote learning if they so choose, and that right now the start date for school is September 9th. And this is for the school year 2021. And if there's no other discussion, I'd entertain a vote for that. All right, I'll take a roll call vote. Krista,
No.
Julianne,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Wendy,
Yes.
Dr. Jim,
Yes.
Jim Pittman,
Yes.
Charlene,
No.
Dana,
Yes.
and chair votes yes. 7 yeses and 2 nos, the motion passes. So we have approved the hybrid plan with the remote option for those families that want to. And now I'd entertain any other motions that somebody would like to make.
Is there a delay? Okay. First of all, before I make my motion, I would like to get some information from Kathy and/or Heather about, you understand the gist of what I'm wanting to do. I don't think that it is safe to go with the hybrid model for the start of the school year, because even though parents will have the option to have their children continue with remote learning, and we'll have staff members who will do the same, I'm not willing to take the chance, and so I think that it would buy us some time to see how our cases are statewide. It would also give us some time to find out if our particular Lakes region is going to be experiencing any kind of a surge in cases. So I'm looking for input and guidance from you folks, you ladies, in terms of you know, what would be a reasonable, logical date to start the hybrid model as opposed to, or a reasonable length of time to discontinue remote exclusively and start the hybrid model. Does that make sense?
It does, it does. And I can give you a couple of different ideas about that. Certainly, I think the motorcycle weekend is something that no one considered when thinking about implementing this plan. So I think motorcycle weekend could have some effect. If you look at 14 days from the end of motorcycle weekend, that's September 14th. That's still early. I think that we could do September 14th, or we could delay a little bit longer, just so that we could get all of the pieces of the hybrid model in place. This is a very complicated model. We have a lot of matching to do with teachers and with parents, and with also the Virtual Learning Academy. So I certainly would not have any issue with delaying the opening of school. I think it makes sense under the conditions that, you know, that we're seeing right now.
Kathy?
Yes?
Sorry. If we decide to delay it to September 14th, would that push the end date of school? Like, where would that, I mean, because we're
We would need to look at the hours. It could.
Oh, so we're going to go hours?
Yeah, it could push the end date, but we would look at hours.
Yep.
If September 14th is really only 3 days,
Okay.
so that's not a very long period of time.
Yep.
But I do think that as fast as the task force has worked, and I think they worked very quickly, there are a lot of pieces to put together in this plan. And if we don't have the additional time, we'll do what we can to make it work. But I do think the additional time would be helpful.
Yes, Charlene.
I apologize if I wasn't making my intent clear. I'm not proposing that we delay the start of school. What I am proposing is that we, even though we've approved a hybrid model in theory, what I think I'm sorry, not Dr. Jim Pittman. I was on the board with him for a while, so it's kind of automatic. I'm sorry.
And Charlene, I think I understand what you want to do.
What I'm proposing.
However, what you need to do first is you have to have a motion on the floor to delay the hybrid model to a specific date. And if you want to then have a separate motion to have distance online learning only from, say, September 14th to that particular date, that's fine. But
Okay, so I just heard September 9th.
Well, September 9th is the start of school right now as it stands.
Correct.
You can change. You can't make a motion to have remote learning only on starting September 9th or September 14th, unless you make a motion first to move the start date for the approved plan to whatever date you want that to be. So in other words, if you wanted, because then you can have a motion to have remote learning from September 14th to, say, October 15th. And then...
You mean September 9th?
Well,
Because-
September 9th.
Okay.
September 9th to October 15th. And then at that point, the remote learning would then start on, the hybrid plan would then start on October 15th, if that's the way you'd like to do that.
Okay, so everyone understands that I'm not proposing delaying the start of school.
Right, but,
Yes.
Okay.
but if you vote to do, you first have to vote to change the date on the approved plan. That's the first motion you have to make. In other words, to move the start of the remote plan, the hybrid plan, to, say, October 15th. You have to change that date first.
Okay,
So
I think I've
if
got it.
that date is changed first, then you have to propose to start online remote only from September 9th to October 14th.
can I
If
make
that's-
that all in one motion?
No, two separate motions. You have to move it, because it's already been approved that the motion that was just approved starts September 9th.
Okay,
That's gonna happen, unless you change the start date for that particular motion.
okay, got it.
So if you want, but before we do this, if you change the start date to October 15th, say, just as a rough date, and that's approved, then your second motion then would be to have remote learning only, say, from September 9th to October 15th. If that's defeated, then we do not start school until October 15th, because you've already approved a new start date for the motion that was just approved.
What? That doesn't make, that doesn't make any sense.
It's very simple. You can't change the date on the approved motion. Well, you can change the date on the approved motion, whatever you want it to be. And that's the official start of the approved plan. Whatever happens before that, whether it be remote or not, is up to this board to decide whether they want to vote to approve remote learning before the hybrid plan takes place then.
Okay,
Good luck.
Yes, Jim?
Hello, okay. Let me see if I can put this all together. Maybe I'll back into this by going to my original question before this last motion was approved. My interest is strongly to delaying the start of school till the 14th. The reasoning to me on that is that that would give us our 2-week buffer from the time that bike week ends. And it would be an opportunity to gauge whether we're going to have a spike in community infections as a result of the presence of all those folks. Assuming that we get to the 14th and there is not that dreaded possibility come to pass, then we just go forward and we're fine. If we do get to the 14th and there is a huge upswing, Kathy has the discretion to implement remote learning right away. Am I correct?
If you decide to give it to me.
Yeah, we would, obviously, if that did happen, Jim, most likely, we would call an emergency board meeting, or something like that, or give Kathy the authorization to do that, without necessarily a board approval, if something happened. I would rather see the board sit at that point and say, you know, this is where we are health-wise, and this is what's happened out there, and have the board take that official position to change to remote learning. I think that's really our responsibility as a board to do that.
Okay.
And that's really the crux of the whole process. And Charlene, I respect everything that you're saying about remote learning. I understand your concerns. I think Jim's point, again, if we move to the 14th, it does give us a little more time for our planning process. And again, if the health situation changes, then certainly we're going to have to change with it. And that's what I said before. Even if we implement this plan and, 2 weeks down the road or 3 weeks down the road, something happens where we have to react, we're going to be ready to react and institute full remote learning if that's the way we have to go. This board voted to approve the plan, not fully remote learning. That's what we currently have approved. I think personally it makes sense to extend it to the 14th if somebody wants to make that motion, to at least get that part on the table. But if somebody wants to extend it beyond that, that's okay too.
If I make that motion, are you good?
Second.
I'd like to see it go a little beyond the 14th because, as I said earlier, we're going to have families who are taking family vacations outside of the state, outside of, you know, outside of this general area, and we're not certain that every single one of them is going to be observing safety protocol. So I would like to see it 2 weeks from September the 9th. And the reason for that is that theoretically all of the families who've come back from their cruises or their trips to Florida or Texas or whatever will have had the chance to self-isolate for 14 days. That would be my druthers, but thank you for asking.
So that would be the 23rd of September.
And again, that certainly may delay the end of school based on hours and all that, so we'll just have to, we'll put those numbers together, and you know, may just push the end of school back. But that's, again, whatever motion is on the floor, the board will discuss, and then we'll take a vote on it. If it's the 14th, if it's the 23rd, whatever date gets put out there, that's what we will discuss, and that's what we'll vote on.
So I'm looking at my calendar, and it looks like the 14th, and then the 21st is the following Monday, and then the 28th is the following Monday after that.
So if it's going to be a Monday, it's going to be the 21st or the 28th.
Is that right?
Well, the 21st, if we're going to extend it out, it is a Monday, which, you know, certainly for a lot of reasons probably is a good way to get started as opposed to midweek, and lessens the delay by 2 days. How do you feel about that date?
Okay, I mean,
Right.
I'm looking for a motion. If somebody wants to make the motion, then we will discuss it at a board and decide what the date's going to be. You know, if the 21st is the date that's put on the floor, then that's what we'll vote on.
I move that we move the start of school from the September 9th to Monday, September 21st.
Second.
Okay, Jim Pittman moved. Charlene second. Okay, now we're open for discussion. Who would like to discuss?
If I can just add in
Sure.
support of my own motion here, I think I heard Kathy suggest that any additional time to work on all those little details would be welcome. So I think that maybe that would be an added benefit to us actually starting out with all of our pieces in place, as opposed to having a much shorter period till we have to implement the plan.
Do you have a sense, Kathy, if that would, if that may or may not move the end of the school year, based on another, basically?
It may.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about probably 10 school days now that
Yeah.
you're
It
moving out.
may not move all 10.
Yeah.
But it may move a few.
Okay.
And then I have a question about whether the expectation would be from September 9th to September 21st, that there be, I guess there wouldn't be remote learning then, it would be just, the start of school would be the 21st,
Right,
no remote learning?
there would be nothing, there would
all
be
right,
nothing
thank you.
prior to the 21st.
Yep. Okay. So we'd have to do the calculations on that.
Yes, Charlene.
I want to thank you all for your patience while I was trying to wrap my head around the best way to skin this cat. Sorry about using that expression. No offense to cats. And that's all I've got.
Okay. Okay, so any other discussion? If not, I'd entertain a vote on moving the start of school to the 21st.
No, we're doing the vote.
We're doing the vote.
We're taking a vote on the, moving the start of school from the 9th to the 21st. Okay? Krista,
No.
Julianne,
No.
Tim,
No.
Wendy,
No.
Dr. Jim,
No.
Jim Pittman,
Yes.
Charlene, Dana,
No.
Chair votes no as well. So 7 to 2, no, or 2 to 7. That motion fails. So right now, we're still back to September 9th as a start date.
I make a motion to go with the 14th of September, please.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to move the start date from September 9th to the 14th. Discussion. Dana?
Yes, can we avoid this motion by just having the superintendent being able to say, look, we have an emergency, we need to rethink this, or, you know, everybody...
No, we voted on a plan that starts the 9th. If we're going to modify the date, it's the board responsibility to modify the date.
Yeah, but when we close school in March,
That was a state order. We had no choice to do that.
oh, okay, so what if there's another, okay, I gotta call John Sununu, right?
Yeah, right, exactly. Okay, any other discussion on the 14th? Okay, let's take another roll call vote to, on the, moving the start of school date from September 9th to September 14th. Krista?
Yes.
Julianne?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Jim Manning?
Yes.
Jim Pittman?
Yes.
Charlene?
Yes.
Dana?
No,
Chair votes yes. 8 to 1, yes. Okay, so the start of school with the remote plan as presented right now will be September 14th. There's Charlene, the hybrid plan. I'm sorry.
Hybrid.
I apologize, the hybrid plan that we voted on, yes. Okay, anything else on this? Any other motions that anyone would like to make on this? Again, remember that should the situation change, the superintendent will contact the school board for their input and decision on changing the plan if necessary. But right now, that's what we're moving forward with as of September 14th. We will start with the hybrid plan, and those parents that would like remote will have the remote option.
And we'll reevaluate in 6 weeks?
Yes, it's a 4 to 6 week evaluation, so we'll see how it's going, and we'll make whatever modifications we need to make if necessary. Okay? If there's nothing else before this meeting, I will entertain a motion to go into non-public under RSA 91A semicolon 3, paragraph 2, for a personnel matter. Yes.
Jack, you have someone that's asking for public
Oh, I'm
input.
sorry. I'm sorry. Good. Yeah, okay, I think you're on.
Hold on.
Well, he's coming down, I think, to help you.
Hello?
There you go.
Sorry.
Yeah, you made him come all the way down the stairs, too.
My name's Kim Kelleher. I'm a teacher here in the district. Very proud to be working in this district. And once again, thank you everybody for all your hard work and dedication to the safety of our students and our teachers and our community. We really appreciate this. I just have a question about a clarification question. You passed the motion about the hybrid plan as presented. Was that the hybrid plan that Kathy presented with the rotating Wednesday? Or was that
No.
the plan, just a hybrid plan in general to be determined?
Hybrid plan to be modified, moving forward, to be massaged, I guess, if you want to use that word, to take in considerations that have been presented to the board for the scheduling for the students. So it's not the Monday, Thursday, Tuesday, Friday necessarily. We're going to look at all the details and make sure that that works for everybody.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Yes, sir. Oh, ma'am, I'm sorry.
That's okay. My name's Bobby. I just have a couple quick questions. One would be, when do parents have to decide whether their children are going to be remote learning or they'll be in the school for
Tomorrow? No.
And to help us with our decision, one of the things that the 57-page plan didn't lay out and stuff we didn't discuss the other day, and I'm sure some of you got my neurotic email this morning about how things are going to be laid out, but as parents, we have to decide really the safety for our children and ultimately the community. And each individual school within that plan, in my opinion, might need to be broken down a little bit more for us, because it just sort of puts all the schools together, and I don't think the high school necessarily is going to run the way, Carpenter's going to run. So if maybe the individual principals can put out individual plans for the school so we can make the right decision for our children, that might be helpful for us.
Thank you. Yeah,
Thank you.
as you know, every school is a little bit different, and that's certainly appropriate to take a look at.
Jack, if I could just mention that has been a part of the plan and the idea from the start. We just needed to have some direction from the board as far as what plan was going to be approved. So now that this plan is approved, each school, and you're so right that Carpenter is different from the high school, so each school will have its own. It won't be a 58-page plan. It will be a more practical plan. Okay, how are we going to implement this? What is drop-off going to look like, and what are the certain details going to look like at each school? So you may not have that before we ask you to respond to the survey, but if you get it after you've responded to the survey and you want to change your mind, that's fine.
Yes. He's getting you, I think.
Thank you, Scott. So my other question is for the high school, looking at the plan. I know that when I speak to my son who's going into junior year, and I mentioned things like the plexiglass, and he goes, "Oh, we're just going to lean out of those and talk," because we don't want the teachers to hear what we're saying when we need to talk to our friends. So I'm just wondering, are some of the principals going to be bringing in some of the students to help create that plan for safety? Because the children are ultimately going to want to break some of the plans. So having a really good plan in place before the kids get here to break the plan might be a better option for helping us decide as parents. Like, what rules are they just automatically going to break off the bat? And how can we implement plans to prepare for what they will not, uphold? Thank you.
Well, I wouldn't assume that students are automatically going to want to break the plans, but I do think it's a great idea to have students involved in some of the planning, and I don't know if that can happen during the summer, but whenever we have a student investment in what's happening in our schools, that makes everything work better. So I think it's a terrific idea to have some of our students involved.
Okay, I'm going to go through just a couple more texts, and then we'll move on to a motion to go into non-public. This person, it's being clarified, but in case they're still listening, can you clarify that any plan includes the option for any parents to choose remote, even if they choose the hybrid model? And that is correct. We voted on the hybrid model, but it has the remote learning option for those parents that want it. So what we voted on was the hybrid with the remote option for the parents that want that. Let's see. This person just said before we took the vote that they prefer to stay online for until the pandemic is over. I don't really know what that means necessarily, but I certainly respect that. There's some concern there. We don't know when the pandemic's going to be over, but we did vote for the hybrid plan, so that's what we're moving forward with. Can each student change options? Can they choose to start remote and then choose to change to the hybrid model. And, go ahead, Kathy.
We would be asking that if parents choose remote, that they give remote a try for the marking period.
Yeah, so by marking period, if a student can get through a marking period on remote, and then they wanted to change to in school, that would most likely be an option, as long as numbers and all that work. That would certainly be an option. And let's see, if the student is hybrid, does that mean there is direct instruction from teachers for only 2 days a week? And that,
I'm sorry, Jeff, what was that?
if student chooses the hybrid model, does that mean the instructions from teachers are only 2 days per week?
Well, it depends on whether we go with, and I guess the administrators are going to need to talk about this and get input from the teachers. It depends on whether we go with the Monday, Wednesday, or, the original schedule, or we go with a schedule that's Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and whether that Wednesday is a remote day or an in-person day. So, and that's something that we'll have to discussed with. There's an administrative team meeting tomorrow morning, so we'll have to have a discussion about that.
And this particular question, do we close schools for 2 weeks every time a major event happens in New Hampshire? And, no, we don't close school every time something big happens, but unless it's COVID related, obviously. If there's an event down in Manchester, a big event in Manchester, we're not going to close schools here. Again, and I think at this point I'll try to respond to others later on. But I think we've had a great evening tonight, and a great discussion among board members, and I really appreciate everybody's patience and respect for everybody else's opinions. I appreciate everybody in the audience that had some input tonight, very important. I certainly appreciate the people that texted as well. And moving on from here, I would entertain a motion to go into non-public under, yes.
Before you do that,
Not there yet.
do you want to mention the sports plan?
We haven't picked a date yet.
Okay.
We are going to have another meeting. We can't do it next Monday. Kathy's going to get back to me with another date so we can set another board meeting to discuss the sports programs, the fall sports. That's hot on everybody's topic right now, and we do want to discuss that and make a decision on what's going to happen with fall sports. Hopefully we can meet sometime next week to get that under control one way or the other. I don't know where that's going, what people's feelings are on that, but we'll discuss that and come up with a date for next week, hopefully.
Okay.
Mr.
And-
Chair,
Yes.
just one thing. With the decision to go with option one, the parents understand they still have option 2 or 3, right?
I'm sorry?
The board decided on option 1 with the hybrid, but parents also can choose either option 2 or option 3.
Right. The way this works,
Yeah.
if a parent decides
Yeah.
that they want their child to come back to school, that's basically what we voted on. However, they have the option to go remote as well, or if they wanted to homeschool. So the parents have all 3 options to choose from.
Yeah.
What we put forward is the hybrid plan
Yeah.
that includes parents abilities to make their own choice for either remote or homeschooling if that's what they felt like doing.
Now that we've decided, is Mr. Farr still the principal of the technical center?
Yes, Bruce Farr.
Yeah. Is it possible to revisit the decisions that we have tossed around with the vocational center? I think this is going to make a big difference in the reduction of the number of students. And in the technical center, they have workstations that are well beyond the 6 feet. So maybe some of the technical courses could be revisited to see if they could continue. That was a number of people's concern on emails as well.
Dana, I can speak about that. We have certain students at the vocational center who require certifications, and those certifications require practical hours, and so Bruce and I will be working on how to make that all work so that social distancing is in place for those students, but
Okay.
they can also meet the standards in the course of study that they're in. So
Okay.
there will be probably some alteration in that program, but
Okay.
still in line with all the guidelines in the plan.
Okay.
Yes, Tim.
The only other piece would be, we have a meeting on 9/14, and I'm just wondering if it would be wise for us to change it to, say, September 10th, just in case there needs to be updates or any changes prior to the first day of school.
September 10th?
Just picked a date.
That's, it can be the 10th, it can be any day that you want. I guess what I would think was if there's something specific that we should meet at, it could be next week, it could be the week after, it could be the week after that.
Right, as we
So,
move forward.
I
but
think
the
as we
actual
move
board meeting-
forward, we have to extend, keep those dates wide open. Since we're not now, I see I'm sorry, our board meeting was the 14th.
Correct.
I'm
Right.
sorry. Got it. Yes. Why don't we move it to the 9th, since that's not going to be the first day of school anymore?
Not the 9th,
Oh,
but
you
the
can't-
10th. would
You
work.
can't do that. Okay. Well, how does September 10th sound like for the next official board meeting that's scheduled? That's the week prior to, the Thursday prior to
Thursday, yeah.
opening a school on the 14th. Does that sound okay for everybody? For now?
Yep.
And
Yeah.
I can guarantee you, we will have several board meetings before that.
Okay.
But September 10th.
Which is
Heather,
a Wednesday, right? Oh, it's okay, because school is going to open on
Can we or no?
Tuesday the 9th.
well, no, I think you can. Heather just reminded me that we have our new staff reception, but of course, that's very unlikely to happen. That's not an event I think that would be something that we can do in this current situation.
Right.
So we'll try to do something else really nice and supportive for new staff, but it won't be what we've traditionally done.
Okay. All right. Where are we now?
The 10th,
We're on the 10th.
No, but physically, where is the meeting?
the tech.
Yes, most likely the Skylight Dining Room. If we hear that, there may be a large turnout for whatever reason, again, with school opening the following week and all of that, we can certainly ask to set up here again, if that's appropriate. But we use the Skylight Dining Room, I think, if we can. All right? All right,
I have a
Charlene.
question
Charlene.
before we go into non-public. I don't think the gentleman is here right now, but I believe if I understood the question correctly, there was a question about what our threshold was going to be, and since the superintendent is going to have the authority to close school in case of a COVID-19 issue, I was wondering what particular criteria is going to be used. I know that in March, I guess it was, we closed, wasn't it before the governor's
We did
order?
close before the governor did.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it had to do with, I think, one case in the community or someone who was related to us. I don't remember the details, but
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
question, basically my question
Mhm.
is, what is the criteria that you will use to determine whether or not to go
Well,
fully remote?
you haven't given me the authority to do that yet, but if you decide to do that, the basis that I would use is I would be working with the infectious disease specialist, who is probably known to some of you in the community, Dr. Noble. But one of the things that I would want to look at, I'm probably more cautious than some people are. I think that community transmission is too late. And so I would like to be watching the trajectory and make that decision with you. It doesn't have to be me that makes the decision, but I would like to be watching the trajectory so that, because this virus replicates quickly. And I don't want to wait until it's community transmission, because then I fear that we will be contributing to that as a school district. And I want to keep our community, our teachers, and our students safe. So I'd be looking at a point before that comes. But again, it doesn't have to be me making the decision. I'm happy to make it with a consult from, some with expertise. But, I'm also happy to make it with you all, so.
Right, and on the flip side of that, Kathy, I'd also like to see, working with Dr. Noble and others, what guidelines we could ease up on, as I guess I'm being hopeful that we could get back to 100% open.
Sure, I think it goes both ways. I mean, if everything is really safe, I think we would definitely want to go in the other direction. So I think having some guidance to go in either direction, I think is a great idea.
And Kathy, I certainly don't mind, giving you the authority to do that. I guess I just feel this board should be responsible as well.
Sure.
And again, not that, I don't want to necessarily take the heat, or anybody else wants to take the heat, but I think if that decision is made, I think it should be a board decision as a whole. But you having the authority to say, we really got to do this, and call for an emergency meeting or a phone tally or whatever, to make sure that we understand what's going on. So again, however it plays out, hopefully it won't. But if it does, I think the board should be part of that process. Just because we've made the decision to send the children back, we should be responsible to say we've got to change. So I think that's just our responsibility to do that.
Sure. And what I would be looking to do with the consultant is to develop metrics to go in either direction. So we're doing this based on science.
Thank you. All right, any more comments before we head to non-public?
But there should be the understanding that if there's an outbreak at a particular school or something, you've got the authority to just...
Oh, absolutely. If Kathy has to make an immediate decision, she certainly has the ability to do that. But if it looks like something that we have to make as a global process, I think we should be involved in that.
So if I get a call on, 5:30 in the morning saying, oh, we just found out that so-and-so has symptoms and they're getting a test and they got the test results, and, I'm sorry I didn't call you, but we know now that there's a positive, then in that case, I would just close school.
Absolutely. Yep.
And that's in the plan. That's outlined in the plan.
Right.
So.
And I think it's my concern is more the whole global thing. If this is something that we really have to, say, shut the schools down, go fully remote and all that, I think we have to take responsibility for that as a board. We made the vote to put the kids in school, and if we're going to shut the whole school down to go remote again, I think that's our decision to make, and we have got to take the responsibility to do that. So, okay, anything else? All right, now I will entertain a motion to go into non-public under RSA 91A:3, paragraph 2, for a personnel matter.
Bruce, don't go away.
Do I hear a
So
motion?
moved.
Yes,
All right,
second.
Second.
All right, Tim moved.
Second.
Dr. Jim's, no, I'm going to give that to Wendy. I heard her first. All right, all those in favor of going into non-public, Krista,
Yes.
Julianne,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Wendy,
Yes.
Dr. Jim,
Yes.
Jim Pittman,
Yes.
Charlene,
Yes.
Dana.
Yes.
Chair votes aye. Okay, we are in non-public. Thank you all for coming. Really appreciate it.